Hi, I'm Chef Joe from Clean Eating, and today we're talking all about apples. There are over 7,000 different varieties of apples in the world. We've only got a couple here today, but we'll tell you all about them. The great thing about apples is that they range in flavor from crisp and tart to sweet and soft. So the first one we've got here is one of my favorites. This is the Granny Smith apple. Now this little guy is nice and crisp and tart, so it's really good for juicing. It's good to make apple crisp. It's good in baking. Absolutely delicious. Granny Smith's also really good with any sort of fresh herbs. So, your mint, your parsley, thyme, rosemary, all of that is delicious. Next one we have is the Royal Gala apple. Now when I worked in Niagara, I worked on a fruit farm, and that is where this became my favorite apple as a teenager. This is really sweet, it's very crunchy, and it goes really well in any dish. It's a great snacking apple, also great to add a lot of sweetness to any of your juices or any dishes. This apple you can also pair with any spices. So if you've got nutmeg, cinnamon, clove, any of those good baking spices, really go well with this apple and all of them. Next little guy we have here is our Macintosh apple. Now this one is a little bit softer. It's really delicious, very sweet and tender. So this is a good baking apple. You can make a really delicious applesauce with this little guy. Next we have our Golden Delicious, and this is a great all-around apple. Now this one's great for snacking. It's also very sweet, it's very juicy and firm. So this is a good all-around apple that you can use for baking and snacking raw. Now I'll show you how to cut them. So an apple, if you want to cut it into quarters, you can cut out the core very easily. Just cut down the center and cut down the center again. And then on a 45-degree angle, you can just cut out the little core, and then you've got a flat surface to work with. So next, you can just slice it into whatever size pieces you want, and you're good to go. So storing apples, you want to make sure that you store them in the fridge and away from anything else in a perforated bag or a perforated plastic or mesh, because they release an ethylene gas, so they're going to ripen anything in your fridge, especially your rutabagas, your avocados, and your bananas. You want to keep those guys all separate. They don't really get along very well. Apples have a lot of fiber, and most of it is in the skin. So you want to make sure, as much as possible, you don't peel the skins off. You can keep them on when you're baking. I'm not a huge fan of peeling. It's a lot of extra work, and I want to keep all the good fiber and the antioxidants intact. Now the last little guy we have here are really adorable. They're these little lady apples, and these little guys are perfect for snacking. You just throw them in your lunch. They're nice and sweet and they're crunchy. They're absolutely delicious. Now apples are really good from sort of late summer to fall is when they're kind of in season and they're the best, but you can freeze them. So any apple except for our little friend, the Golden Delicious here, are good for freezing. All you have to do is chop them into big slices or chunks, put them in a single layer in a plastic bag, and throw them in your freezer, and they're good to go. Now those apples, they'll lose a little bit of their crispness, so you want to use them for baking or anything like that, not necessarily to eat raw or put on your salads. I'm Chef Joe, thanks for joining us, and for more tips and tricks, visit us again at cleaneating.com.